Are you ready to rumble? Let the gloves come off in our franchise Smackdown. From Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate, Sherry Chris. From Keller Williams Realty, Chris Heller. And from Remax, Dave Liniger.
Greetings, gang.
Hello. Good morning.
My AV team, who's fantastic, told me to always be stage left, which is over there, but I screwed that up. Sorry, guys. You look better there anyway, Dave.
Thank you.
So we have, three really important industry leaders. I have a couple questions. In my talk, I said, when am I going to hear the franchise executives say, we have the best agents, not the most agents? Isn't that what we should be trying to achieve? And so let me ask all of you, am I wrong? And then you three have a lot of clout to move the needle on that very question. I think in a way, as I look back, Dave, when I met Dave in a bar in New Orleans when he was just starting and I was just starting, and we drank together, and he told me he had this vision. He was in Arizona. He's got the biggest real estate company in the world. I'll never forget that. We didn't know each other from Adam. But you started with that idea, the best agents, correct?
That's correct.
Tell me what's happened that it's still about number one in numbers, not number one in quality. Not necessarily Remax, but the whole industry, because you have a good wide view of this whole thing.
The industry has not changed much in 50 years. There are a lot of brokers that will hire anybody that walks in the door. The concept is everybody's got a next door neighbor, a mother, a brother, a best friend, and maybe there's some business there. When Remax started, it was the agents had to pay us to work for us and pay in advance, so we really couldn't take the large numbers of beginners and no part-timers, and we were able
they had to have, what, 10 grand a year to get in the door, basically?
Yeah, probably that much. Now it's 20,000 a year to
But back then, that was a lot of money, so you're starting your own. That was an investment you had to make.
Yeah, and in reality, with our people, they average about 8 years experience when they join the company, and so they're already seasoned. They know they have a reputation, and the system has worked for us very well.
Yeah.
You know, there's no reason why we can't have both. What we're seeing, and my partner John Davis, who does an unbelievable job with our growth. If we look at our top 200 agents, the number of them that have been in the business for 5 years or less has been increasing every year. And our most creative, innovative, disruptive thinkers and agents are the new agents that are getting into production quickly, going through the training and now contributing in a big, big way. I mean, back when I was doing it, it would take 10 or 15 years to see what we're seeing agents do now in 2 and 3 years. So we're always going to grow, and we're always going to seek the best talented people to help us keep innovating, creating new things and new ways of doing business.
Sherry, tell me this. I think it's systemic. I think there's something systemic in the old, Dave just said 50 years old. This is like us still using landlines and fax machines, something 50 years old. My God, we're still relying on a kind of a old arcane. Isn't it systemic, and what's going to change that?
Well, it is slowly changing, and our industry is very slow to change, and we all know this. We want change, but it just doesn't happen, and I think part of that is because there are over 1 million of us out there in all different stages of our real estate careers. Now, for me, I will probably never say that we have the most agents because we started 7 years ago. We don't.
I'm kidding. Yeah.
No,
I'm sorry.
That's
sir.
why
I just could not say.
I'm honored to be up here with my 2 colleagues in the industry. But if I look at, and Dave and I talked about this behind stage, when Remax launched, and I don't want to speak for you, but I hope you'll allow me to for a moment. When Remax launched over 40 years ago, this gentleman had a vision about making agents important, and it was in the era of the agent at that time, and did a brilliant job of executing on that and continues. For me, my vision and our vision and Realogy's vision for the Better Homes and Gardens brand is to be consumer focused, because we're in the era of the consumer today, and to put more content out there and try and capture that consumer and make the consumer feel more important. So it's a different business model.
Yeah, but gang, let me ask you a question. If that was true, other than just a statement, consumers, wouldn't it be great if franchises said, brokers, you can't be a member of my franchise unless you hire the best and the brightest? And wouldn't it be great if you all were pushing NAR to lobby for, and NAR says we don't lobby for state legislation. Hey, NAR lobbies for state legislation when it's important, to lobby for higher standards. If we were really for the consumer, we would make sure that all the agents out there were like this group and not some of the people that are missing a fry or two in their Happy Meal out there selling homes. And you all are in a position to make that happen. So I'm challenging you. You're big shots. You can handle it.
Hey, and I see it happening. I mean, we see, sure, we're growing in number of agents, but we see the growth in our transactions and the growth in our sales volume growing disproportionately. And even with the growth of a lot of newer agents, as they're doing more business and being more productive and serving more consumers, we see that happening. And the ones that aren't, and look at whether it's, regardless of the company, regardless of the color on the business card or sign, and I think Spencer mentioned it right before we came up, the agents, it's no longer whether they're able to stay in the business for long periods of time without doing business. They're either getting into production and getting on the path to success, or they're getting out and realizing that it isn't what they thought it was.
So you're seeing that now. You're seeing people that were 20 years ago that wasn't happening?
Oh, I see people. I mean, I used to see people that would be there for a long time without doing business. Now, with our training and I'm not saying this is a commercial, but we're able to see who's going into training. We're able to see the results that they're getting, and they're able to see that. And the ones that are plugging in are succeeding. The ones that aren't are going, you know what, this isn't for me.
I just want to add, I totally agree with that. If you look back 15 or 20 years ago, as a franchisor, we had no idea who was, taking training, doing what, being productive, because there was no technology. But today, we can track, and we do, who's taking our training, whose productivity is going up. We report that back to our brokers and try and hold the broker owner accountable to have the best, because really the end goal for the broker is to have a more profitable company.
Gotcha.
So it is changing.
Dave, let me ask you, and then all of you, because this is not supposed to be Brad smacking you down, I apologize. It's supposed to be you smacking each other down, but what I'd like...
Wait, Brad, we all agreed backstage when you weren't with us that we weren't going to do that.
So, help me out. Someone go to the mic and help me smack them down. Let me start with you, Dave, and then go down. What is the distinguishing factor now between your three brands that makes you different, or is the franchising game basically all the same? And this is an opportunity to kind of toot your own horns.
Well, realistically, every brand has its own competitive advantages and some disadvantages, and so each one of us tries to push why we think we're the best for a certain type of a prospect.
Yep.
That's just normal business type work. The truth of the matter is, in this era of technology, and especially with the consumers starting to rate real estate agents, it's going to be a self-cleansing process. Yeah. Because if you got good ratings and you want to be rated and you ask for the ratings, they can see whether you're good or not. Right. It used to be the only way they could tell was if it was a personal referral or a repeat customer. And so the consumer's going to have a lot to do with cleaning up our business. However, the biggest problem we've got is the National Association of Realtors. And the National Association of Realtors has done fabulous things for our industry. But remember, it is a dues-paying organization. And back in 1973, there were only about 30,000 of us that were called realtors because only the office owner was the realtor. And they figured out that they could get full realtor dues if they made everybody a realtor. And overnight, several hundred thousand became more dues-paying. So right now, they benefit by having 1.1 million dues-paying members, whereas in reality, there's probably 250 to 300,000 that are doing 80% of the business or more.
Right. The problem is some of those other people accidentally find a lead, and it's, Dolly Lenz told me, she said here in New York, where you have an inflated title and you have a fancy business card and you have a cool collateral, and suddenly someone gets, snookered into using that incompetent agent that has all the pizzazz around their name, but really isn't capable of being a fiduciary in this big transaction. So you're saying that you've always been agent-centric. Did that change over the years, Dave, or do you still feel like RE/MAX is core agent-centric?
We're totally agent-centric. I read a book 40 years ago, The Customer Comes Second. And the philosophy in the book, quite simply, was if you have the best agents, they naturally give quality service. So if you hire the best agents, you don't have to worry about customer service. They're going to give it anyway.
Yeah.
And so the saying was, take care of your agents better than anybody else. You'll get the best agents. You'll get the best customer service.
Now, Chris, you have a take on that, don't you, about customer? You told me once Dave's description of that versus Keller Williams. What is it?
I think that was in relationship to, our philosophy is the agents aren't our customers, the agents are our partners. And that's a...
But what does that mean? That sounds like fancy words.
They're not that fancy. It really means like when the agents are sharing in the profits. Let me say that we ended the year with 706 market centers. 99% of them were profitable. We shared a little over $130 million last year with the agents. When they're sharing in the success of the company, when they have a say in the company through the agent leadership councils, they feel like and are treated like partners in the business. It's not the traditional company. I was at a traditional company for 16 years, and the decisions were made either in the favor of the agent or in the favor of the broker, and a lot of times there was a tussle over which way it was going to go. And there's a different dynamic when you have everyone striving for the same goals and working towards the same plan to benefit everyone. So it's more of a partnership. It is that. It's simply that.
But isn't a way, when I think Dave's model, when you get 100% of the commission, was your model, right, Dave? That's kind of the best form of economic participation. You don't have to give away anything. It'd be like not paying taxes.
So
wouldn't that be good?
Last year we grew by 18,552 agents. More agents joined our company than any other company. There was a reason why. It's because of the value that they're getting. If they weren't getting that value, they'd be leaving, not joining. So is it their economic model and commission splits? That's always going to be part of it. But there's other things. There's the training, there's the tools, there's the technology. There's things that agents want that if we as franchisors can provide, we'll keep growing because of the value that we provide.
Sherry, let's go to you. Consumers, you said, but also your model is, as a franchise and most of Realogy, is broker-centric, correct?
It is more broker-centric.
And tell us how that plays out in terms of kind of the ultimate delivery of services down to the consumer when you're focused on the broker. Is it your view that that broker middleman is core to delivering those services better, or?
Well, it's a multi-tier. I mean, the consumer is very important, and as a consumer-centric brand, we believe that obviously if there's no consumer in the transaction, there's no transaction. And for the most part within our industry, I believe that we're not providing a high enough level of service to the consumer. From the broker-centric piece, we attract franchisees who want to grow strategically. And it's never growth at any cost, it's growing strategically. So we ask our prospects, our prospective brokers, what is your plan today, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and how can we help you get there? Because the bottom line for us is that we want our broker owners to have what we call a saleable asset at the end of all of this. Something that they can sell to someone else and actually put money in their pocket. And not every franchise model can do that or works on doing that. So I think that's the difference.
Let me ask you this. Would you all help me champion this idea? And I know I make some people mad here. I'm really sorry. It seems to me that we have this data that's held secret, which is production data. And it doesn't tell you everything, but it's just another piece of the puzzle, right? And I think you all advocate putting your signs everywhere, which is kind of a sloppy way of helping the consumer know who's the top producer in the neighborhood, right? That kind of helps the consumer. If somebody's got their signs all over, we think, wow, they're a good agent, right? So it seems like we should just unleash that data. You all control it. You pay dues to all these MLSs. Let's put some filters on it. Let's be responsible about it. But why don't we just put that out there so consumers, and it doesn't mean you hire the agent with the most sales, but it might be worthwhile people knowing who's making the most sales. I personally kind of want to hire a really successful agent. And there's one measure of that, not completely, is production. Now I should shut up, but what do you think?
Well, first of all, that's not hard to find. I mean, if you, you can go onto a lot of the portals and see how many sales agents have. I mean, I have a sales team in San Diego, and I can see my production on the portals. The important thing
you're saying that's happening, so get over it.
It's happening.
It is happening.
I'll get over it.
It's
Okay.
out there.
Yeah.
There are a lot of lists out there that, the top 1,000 agents, the top 250 teams, so that information is available. But a consumer can't choose just based on productivity.
And they don't.
And they don't. And so, if an agent is out there saying, I'm number one, period, what does that mean to the consumer? What agents need to do is go out there and talk about the services that they're going to provide, tell stories about past successes. Storytelling in our industry is powerful and important, but we often don't use it. We just put that number out there.
Dave, any thoughts on that?
We've stressed for years to our agents, don't put on your promotional pieces you're a multi-million-dollar producer or that you've made $10 million in sales. Why don't you put in there that over my career, I've helped over 250 families buy and sell their home.
I like that.
But the metrics are still important.
Yes.
Let me ask you this. We've been around and around about this for 20 years. The first Connect, we had an academic, Ward Hanson from Stanford, used the word disintermediation, and I got plummeted in the industry for being the worst guy on the planet. And all we did is talk about it, and it was so politically incorrect. A lot has evolved, and I think we're all getting over it. But one thing that seems to be happening is these hybrid brokers. There's a couple young people on the stage this week, because my audience is willing to see these things that are radical, that are completely DIY. They're not taking aim at the mainstream industry, but they're trying to roll up the for sale by owner market with better tools and services, completely mobile. Am I just going to keep chatting about this for years to come, or do you see any crack in the veneer of the traditional model of the full service agent? And is technology moving anything that might change that from where you sit?
I think absolutely it's moving that, and I think it's putting the agent deeper into that transaction. The customer experience and what we want as consumers, when we put our consumer's hat on, is something that we can absolutely deliver. Now, it does require agents, companies to act differently than they did 10 or 15 years ago. But in a transaction that's highly an emotional decision, that's a big ticket item, people want that consultation. They want that help interpreting information. And they want that seamless process. So, as a company or an agent or a broker, whatever hat we put on, we have to be able to provide that at the highest level. And the ones that do will be the ones that will be getting their lion's share of the transactions out there, and the ones that don't will slowly start to go away.
Yeah.
Great. Anybody have a question from the audience? Feel free to go up in the mic. You can ask whatever you want. Let me ask you about a lot of young indie brokers, a lot in this audience. Our audience has gotten younger and younger. I don't know if our old customers are dying off or what, but it's gotten younger and bigger, which we love. But they are entrepreneurs. They are adopting technology at birth. They're not going to seminars to learn about it. They are collaborative by nature. The generation that has been taught to be tolerant, which our generations weren't very well. They are risk takers like all agents, but they have a whole new psyche that, their DNA is different. And the idea of affiliating with a corporation to them is anathema. How do you embrace that with your approach and succeed with that?
2 years ago, we launched Keller Williams Young Professionals, and today we have chapters being launched all across the country.
What are they called?
KWYP,
Yeah.
Keller Williams Young Professionals, and it's tailored for the young millennials that are getting into real estate that we want to attract, because we know they're our next generation of leadership, they're our next generation of innovation and disruptive ideas and creative ideas. And as these chapters are forming all over the country, it's so neat to see, not only the energy and the enthusiasm, but the ideas that they're bringing to us, the ideas that we are turning into products, and creating that community where they're getting the things they want. Yes, we're a big company, but we're not a big corporation. We're a
Brad, I could answer that too, and say in this front row here, we have 2 indie companies that are Better Homes and Gardens affiliates, Generations, Leighton, and then Porch Light.
Leighton's slumping a little. I don't know if he's not
Sit
engaged
up.
with us old
So,
people.
yeah. Then Go Realty. So, you know, I love the indie brokers because I love youth and enthusiasm, and I think what, you know, we have been able to bring to the table as a partner is branding and maturity and helping, you know, grow profitability. So it's a good combination, and that's really the focus for us at BH&G.
Dave, let me ask you, is it time you and I pass the wand to the young people? And what do you think is important for the young people to be successful now in real estate?
Well, in the first place, yes, it is time for the older generation to get out of the way of the next generation. If you look at my management team, it's totally changed in the last 2 years. Average age is under 40. However, the point I would make is that a recent survey done by KPMG showed that over 90% of the millennials consider themselves entrepreneurial. And when we look at trying to attract them, we try to explain to them, hey, you can't be any more entrepreneurial than you can with RE/MAX. You're paying your own way, you're paying your own exposure, advertising, and you get the benefits from it. And so you just have to appeal to the entrepreneurial mindset.
The only thing about it, it's easier for this generation to be entrepreneurial than it was for my generation because they're living at home. My dad kicked me out at 18. It was like,
Leighton, you're not
sorry,
living at
I know
home.
I
You're not
pissed you
living
all
at
off.
home.
They're all giving me that look. Hey, by the way, to all the young people, these are 3 people I totally respect. Together, their experience, their insight, their openness, their willingness, they're entrepreneurs by nature. And for even Lindsay McLean, who's got Homelister, will be on this stage, who's doing a do-it-yourself. These folks will talk to you and help you. And everybody else, I am so honored you're here, and I have so much respect for all 3 of you. And you were great. I'm sure it was a slap down or slam down, but it was certainly a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Brad.